Hi, it's Andy here at Photech Video, and in today's video I thought it might be an idea to go outside with my Sony a5100 paired with the Sony 16 to 50mm f3.5 to f5.6 kit lens, but this time with my camera exposure settings already decided and unmovable. Instead of changing the camera settings to fit the scene, I'm going to take the camera settings to the scene. My idea is to create motion blur with the moving people and vehicles in the scene and with the aid of my 10-stop neutral density filter, because the day is too bright to be able to obtain a correct exposure using a shutter speed as slow as half a second, with the narrow aperture which I want to use to get the static objects in the scene in focus. So recently I uploaded a video to my channel showing how to make moving people and vehicles disappear from your image in camera, and you can watch that video in the link up here. Okay, so my idea is to take some shots using a predetermined shutter speed and a predetermined aperture to see the motion blur which I can get from the people and vehicles moving about in front of my lens, but also be able to show the non-moving parts of the scene completely in focus. This can be particularly useful for a couple of reasons. Firstly, you may want to take away the importance of those moving people and vehicles in the scene without making them disappear completely, but by having them become anonymous moving trails in the image. Or secondly, you may want to show the movement of anonymous people and vehicles in the scene. My idea is, once set, not to change the shutter speed or the aperture so that I can evaluate the motion blur in the different images which I take. I decided to use a 10-stop neutral density filter because I know that it will make my image too dark, underexposed, at the shutter speed and aperture which I want to use, by using the lowest aperture available in my camera, which is 100. I set my exposure mode to manual and my focus mode to manual focus. And in that manual focus, I set it to infinity, which would ensure that the buildings in the background were completely in focus. The exposure settings which I'm going to use are a shutter speed of 1/2 of a second, because I want to see how that shutter speed affects the movement of people and vehicles in the scene, which are all moving at different speeds. I'm going to set an aperture of f14, which is pretty narrow, to obtain a wide depth of field. This means that a lot of the scene in the image will be in focus. And this time I'm going to set my ISO to automatic so that it will give me a correct exposure as the lighting conditions change. Remember that this 10-stop neutral density filter is going to underexpose my image by 3, 4, or even 5 stops, which means that my automatic ISO is going to compensate for that, taking my ISO up to 800 or even 1600. But I'm not worried about grain or noise in the image. What I'm worried about is the motion blur created with that slow shutter speed. So the only variable in the exposure settings is going to be the ISO value. By not changing my shutter speed or aperture for different images and in different lighting conditions, and allowing the automatic ISO to give me the correct exposure, I can evaluate exactly how this half a second shutter speed affects that movement in my image. And of course, by using a shutter speed of half a second in all of the images which I'm going to take today, when I review them, it will help me to decide whether or not a slower or faster shutter speed would have been better in each case. Now I'll be attaching my camera to a sturdy tripod, and I'll also be using this plug-in shutter speed release cable to reduce camera shake to a minimum. If you haven't got a tripod, no worries, you can rest your camera on any solid surface. And if you haven't got a shutter release cable, again, no worries, you can use the built-in timer on your camera, which is usually 2 or 10 seconds. And like this, you will also reduce your camera shake. So the first thing I did before I set that long shutter speed was to take a couple of shots as the human eye normally sees the image. So I set the camera to f14 to be able to get that wide depth of field and to make sure that the background was in focus. I set my ISO to the minimum, which is 100, and the little scale on my camera told me that I needed a shutter speed of 1/160th of a second to create a correct exposure. And 1/160th of a second shutter speed was absolutely perfect because it froze the movement of the people walking in the scene. As you can see in these images, there is no motion blur. So now it's time to attach my 10-stop neutral density filter to my camera and to set my aperture at f14 and my shutter speed at 1/2 of a second. And once those are dialed in, set my ISO to automatic. Remember what I said before, that the automatic ISO is going to compensate for those 3, 4, or 5 stops of underexposure depending on where I am shooting. Okay, so let's take a look then at these straight out of camera images, and you'll see that the motion blur will be different depending on the subjects and the movement which they originally had in the scene. Remember that nobody is going to tell you whether you have too much or too little motion blur in your images. It's all a question of individual taste. Okay, so there you have it. That was great fun because every person and vehicle was moving at a different speed, but the shutter speed remained the same, and therefore we can see different trails of motion blur in each image. Luckily, it didn't cloud over too much and the ISO stayed between 800 and 1600. Remember that the idea of this experiment was not to get clean images without any noise or grain from higher ISO, but to see how that shutter speed of half a second affects motion blur in different images of different objects moving at different paces. So this experiment for me was great fun. I love picking up my camera and going out and trying different techniques. And slow shutter speed photography is one of my favorites. Remember that photography is fun. You need to enjoy it. So pick up your camera, get outside, practice, 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 and experiment, experiment, experiment. Please leave any comments or questions which you might have in the comments section down below, and also tell us if you have any experience doing this type of photography yourself, or if you need any tips to help you in that area. Please like and share this video if you found it interesting. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe to it. Subscribing to a YouTube channel is completely free for you, and it helps the channel to grow. And while you're at it, ring on that notification bell to be notified every time a new video drops on my channel. You'll find affiliate links to gear used in the making of this video in the description section down below. If you do purchase something through one of my affiliate links, thank you. The price to you will be the same, and I will receive a small commission, which will help me to continue creating content for you here on my channel. So until the next time, this is Andy at Photech Video signing off. Take care and be safe.